So soft skills are probably going to be part of your core competencies. So I've already addressed these to a certain degree, but I want to expand on this idea of soft skills. Soft skills are skills that we may possess without even realizing that we possess. So this is a good opportunity for brainstorming. Again, I would look through the available information, things like the job postings, things like LinkedIn resumes, just to see what kind of soft skills there are out there, what employers are looking for, and the kinds of wording that both employers and potential employees are using to describe these soft skills. And then really do a big brainstorm, and maybe do this over the course of a few days. Just vomit everything down that you're thinking about, and then come back and refine them later. You're not going to be using all of the soft skills that you're capable of, perhaps, but you want to have them all there listed out so that you have lots to choose from, right? So I've listed some soft skills, and you can use these however you wish. You might need to rewrite them slightly so that they match the rest of your resume, or perhaps they match a particular job description, or more closely match the skills that you're trying to express here. So do your brainstorming session or sessions, but after you've done that, you'll have this list of skills, experiences, and accomplishments as well that you might decide to include in your resume. Before you begin the work of rewriting your points into more polished phrases, determine which points should be included in your summary skills or in your core competencies. As you're working through your brainstormed list of points, don't delete any points that you decide not to use. Some points might come out in your work history instead, or you might use them in the future for a different resume. So a summary of skills, or as the Yates textbook refers to them, core competencies, usually contains 5 to 8 points. If you want to include more, then you would have to have more subgroupings. And this might be useful, but it might depend upon the job that you're applying for, how much space you have on your resume, and so on. You definitely want to make sure that you are highlighting the most important skills. You don't want to over-clutter your resume. Too much might just be too much. So get that big brainstormed list and then pare back from there. So the thing with soft skills is there are almost certainly some soft skills that your future employer is looking for. So you could probably pretty easily list 20 soft skills, but those might not be the most important soft skills for a particular position or a particular job title. So be discerning about this. So when you're paring back your lists, whether it's more of the soft skills or other points, competencies, ask yourself these questions. Is the point relevant to the type of job I'm currently seeking? If the job is an advertised one, have I included all of the skills, accomplishments, and experiences I have that are referenced in the ad? If I know the name of the company, have I included points that indicate that I would be a good fit with the company's business and values based on the research that you've done of the company? And does the point demonstrate a skill or accomplishment that is particularly impressive or special that other job seekers may not have? Okay, so a word on crafting a resume for a specific job. This is a bit of a balancing act. How many jobs are you applying for? How similar are the qualifications for the various job postings? Are you using a generic resume and then changing a few details for each job posting, or are you sending out one resume to a lot of different job postings? You have to be thinking about your time here. You want to craft your resume as much as possible to a specific job, but if you've got a good job resume that you've crafted to your job title, then most of that work should be done for you already. The jobs that you're applying for shouldn't be so different that you need a completely different resume for each one. So you want to manage your time, you want to maximize your effort, but you also want to have an appealing resume for the jobs that you're applying for. So have a good base, and that's what we're doing in this course. We're not tailoring your resume to a specific job posting, but what we're hoping for is a resume that can be adapted to numerous job postings and might even be used as is for many of them, simply because it encapsulates that job title that you're going with, whether it's communications specialist or communications professional. Those are a couple of the common ones. Okay, so let's move on. Let's talk about professional experience. So some things have certainly changed in how we want to list professional experience. You know, we still want to have things like the dates and the company names, and we want to have a little bit of a description of what we did there and what we accomplished. We really need to be descriptive, specific, clear, and concise. Resumes are a great example of writing that should be always clear and concise. There should never be any ambiguity in what you're writing about, and you should be doing it in the least number of words possible. That means you want to have your writing rich in keywords, and you want to avoid incidental language as much as possible. So you want to make your resume ATS friendly and scanning friendly, but at the same time you want to make it pop for those recruiters so that they look at it and it's not just what the company's looking for, it stands out from the competition. Okay, so let's just look at this example here, and I got this example from the Knock 'em Dead Resumes. So this is another Yate book that I reference a lot in this class. You don't need to purchase it yourself, but it's definitely a great resource if you feel like you want to get a hold of it. Anyway, this example comes from there. This is the type of job description that we might have seen 10 or 20 years ago, responsible for identifying and developing new accounts. Now, there's nothing really wrong with this. It just doesn't stand out. Remember, we want our description to be not just clear and concise, but descriptive and specific. We want to quantify as much as possible. So let's try this one instead. Drove advances in market share and revitalized stalled business by persistently networking and pursuing forgotten market pockets, lost sales, smaller untapped prospects overlooked by competition. Okay, much more engaging for the employer. I can imagine as a potential employer, I would look at this and I would feel like this description was meeting my needs, rather than talking about a past experience. I could imagine myself with an employee like this. So the area where you're addressing your responsibilities and achievements in each job as they relate to the customer's needs you identified in your job title is the core of your resume. Constantly refer back to your job title, whatever you've decided on, whether it's communications professional or one of those other titles that we've touched on, to remind yourself of the details target employers are most likely to want to read about and the keywords and phrases that will help your resume perform in recruiters' database searches. So this kind of reminds me of, when you're doing a research paper and you have to keep referring back to your thesis to remind yourself so that you're focusing your research and your writing. This is very similar to that. Keeping that job title in mind helps you to focus on the details that you want to communicate. So there are many ways to communicate specific details. How are you going to communicate them the most effectively? So the responsibilities and contributions you identify here are those functions that best relate to the needs of the target job. They do not necessarily correspond with how you spent the majority of your working day, nor are they related to how you might prefer to spend your working day. Okay, let's look at another example here. Again, this came from the same book. I think I slightly modified it, but it's pretty close to the same. So it's again from the Knock 'em Dead Resumes book. Motivated sales staff of 6, recruited, trained, managed, hired to improve sales, sales manager, increase sales. There's a few things that are a problem with this description. There's an ordering problem first and foremost. We want to make sure that we order the list of accomplishments in the order that of importance. So we want to make sure that anything that we think is important comes right up front and central. We also want to make sure that we're using the space to the best of its use. So self-evident statements like hired to improve sales, or is that even, that just doesn't even sound necessary to me. And misordered details really will detract from these descriptions. So here's a better example. Sales manager, hired to turn around stagnant sales force. Successfully recruited, trained, managed, and motivated sales staff of 6. Result, 22% sales gain over first years. This is fantastic. I mean, we've got some really quantifiable accomplishments here. As the potential employer, I have hard evidence of what this person is capable of. I can imagine, I can see from this description what they can do. In the first description, it's not specific enough. It leaves too much open to interpretation. The second one, it shows me exactly what this person has done for the company.